The very few advantages to being unemployed is you suddenly have lots of time to finish all of those undone projects you have laying around the farm. Case in point, this is my grandfather's 1971 Ford F-100. Grandpop died in '73, so he had only 2 years to put it to use before it got shelved. After that, one guy who rented the farm for a little while loaned it out to his farm workers who, as you can see, didn't treat it very well. The truck still only has 25,000 original miles. The rust isn't too terribly bad on it. There's a few places where it's rusted through, but the frame is still pretty well intact. Most vehicles in Mississippi generally tend to hold up pretty well. The engine was run all the way through 1994 when a couple of jerks broke in and stole the gas tank. Now, I've never seen this done before. They stole the gas tank out of there. We couldn't find one to directly replace it, so we tried one out of a '75 truck, but the fittings are all wrong and it just isn't going to work. I think that this is a Ford 302 V8. I know that my pop wanted the old 300 straight six that Ford was so famous for back in the day, but they were buying this from his uncle, and all he had was this on the lot at the time, so he took this. I believe it's the 302. At one point, my dad and uncle had the carburetor upgraded to a an automatic choke carburetor. I don't know much about that either. All I know is that it only worked once. I believe it's probably plugged up with a bunch of gunk. I might have to see about opening it up and figure out what it'll take to get it cleaned out and running again. Down here you see the fuel pump and fuel filter. I have no idea what I'll be getting into there, whether the pump still works after all these years or not. What I'll probably do is bypass it altogether and take a trick from another car I worked on a few years ago. When I was in high school, I worked on a 1983 Dodge Charger. No, not the cool one that you remember from movies. This one was based on an Omni. It had a little 2.2 liter 4-cylinder engine. It was a terrible, terrible car, but it was great just because I loved having a piece of crap car to beat up on. Well, that car had no fuel pump, so what I had to do was I had to put a fuel tank on the roof of the car, duct tape it down. This is even more redneck than anything you've ever seen. And siphon the fuel down from the roof into the hood and into the carburetor. There, this little 4-cylinder would actually get enough fuel from the siphon to keep running, and I had no fuel pump or filter at all on the thing. It worked great right up until the car broke down on the side of the road and got crushed by the city of Flowood. Being that this is my grandfather's truck, it's been in the family and is essentially a one-owner since it was never registered after Pop died. My ultimate goal is to get this thing restored, so I'll actually be putting more care into getting it working again. As you can see, the interior is pretty beat to hell. Dash has got lots of cracks. No radio. Never had a radio, but that's not terribly important. But just to verify the mileage, 25,549 miles. 2 years ago, somebody broke the back window out of it. We get vandals out here at the farm all the time, so over the years there have been rats building nests in the place, and even a bird's nest right there where the radio should go. Sad news. The engine in this truck has seized for some reason. The last time I tried to start the truck or was working on it, the engine would turn over freely. It just wouldn't start. Well, now it seems that the rings have seized against the cylinder walls, and so the engine will not budge. I got a wrench and put it on the bolt on the pulley, earlier today, and even with an extra bar to give me the extra leverage to try and turn the engine, it simply would not turn. I came a lot closer to breaking the socket on the wrench actually. So it seems I'm going to have to get a little creative to try and get this engine just to turn over. To try and get these cylinders, pistons freed up, I'm removing each one of the spark plugs one by one. You can see that's kind of grody there. This truck hasn't actually been fired in a very long time. And what I'm doing is spraying liberally into each cylinder a good bit of PB Blaster. This is penetrating oil. It's a whole lot better than WD-40 at doing this kind of thing. Only time will tell whether or not this actually works though. Just spray. Now when I'm done with each one, I'm doing these one at a time, I go ahead and put these back in. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call a bad sign. I'm not sure if you can tell just by looking at it, but there's rust on the end of this spark plug. We may have found our seized cylinder. I have no idea what got in there to cause this to happen though. This truck was stopped in fine working condition and not run since. And ever since then it's been parked under this shed that you see me working in right now. So I have no idea what could have caused this. 7 of the 8 cylinders filled with PB Blaster. This one spark plug right here on the very front end, for some odd reason Ford saw fit to mount it so close to the exhaust manifold that you can't get a wrench onto it. So the only way to replace that one spark plug is to take off the whole exhaust manifold. I'm not doing that, at least not tonight. I got the drive shaft hooked back up and tried yanking the truck around a little bit earlier, but because there's so little weight over the rear wheels of the truck, all they did was slide around and tear up the grass in the yard. So as you can see, I've got a barrel in the back of the truck that's filled to the brim with water, and I'm going to pull the truck around with that, and that water will weigh it down. There's about 500 pounds there now that should help keep it from messing up and sliding around all over the place. I tried it again. Only this time I made the circle about 100 yards, including about 50 of those were on the pavement. And those tires just aren't getting enough grip to actually crank that engine. It's really going to take a shock to get that thing started, and I'm kind of wondering if the engine might be so badly seized that it'll never come loose again, which would really suck, because I really wanted to get my granddaddy's truck going again.